I never thought the man who promised to love me forever would be the one to burn my dreams to the ground. But the night I found the shredded business plan in our garbage can, I understood that my own husband had been sabotaging me for months. What I did next changed both of our lives forever. My name is Renee, and for 11 years I believed I had built a solid marriage. I worked as a pastry chef at a small bakery downtown, saving every extra dollar for my own shop. My husband, Marcus, always smiled when I talked about it. He called it our future. I never imagined those words were a lie. Since I was 19, I had one dream, my own bakery. A warm little place with my name painted on the window and the smell of cinnamon drifting onto the sidewalk every morning. I worked double shifts at other people's kitchens, skipped vacations my friends took every summer, and saved for 6 long years, watching my savings account grow one paycheck at a time. There were nights I fell asleep at the kitchen table with a calculator still in my hand, running numbers over and over until they finally made sense. When I finally had enough for a down payment on a small storefront near the farmer's market, I felt like I was floating 3 feet above the ground. I remember telling Marcus, "This is really happening," my voice shaking with excitement, and he hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. He whispered into my hair that he was proud of me, that he'd always believed in this dream even when I doubted myself. I trusted that hug completely, every word of it. Have you ever trusted someone so much that betrayal never even crossed your mind? Not even for a single second. 3 weeks before my lease signing, the landlord suddenly told me the space had been rented to someone else. I was confused. My paperwork was solid. My deposit was ready. When I asked what happened, he mentioned that another interested bear had called and convinced him I was financially unstable. I brushed it off as a misunderstanding. I had no idea the call had come from inside my own home. After that, everything started falling apart in small, strange ways. A supplier canceled our contract citing new information about my credit. An investor I had been talking to for months stopped answering my calls entirely. Each time, Marcus comforted me, told me the universe had better plans. I cried on his shoulder more than once. Never realizing the shoulder I leaned on was the source of my pain. One rainy Tuesday night, I went outside to take out the trash and noticed torn papers spilling from the bin. I recognized my own handwriting. It was my original business plan, the one I thought I had misplaced months earlier. Pages were ripped, coffee stained, deliberately destroyed. My hands shook as I pieced together enough to realize this hadn't been an accident. Someone had taken it from my files and thrown it away like garbage. Can you imagine finding your dream literally shredded in your own backyard? I didn't confront Marcus right away. Instead, I started paying attention. I checked our joint email account and found a message thread between him and my former landlord. In it, Marcus described me as unreliable and not ready for that kind of commitment. My stomach dropped. My own husband had spent months quietly convincing everyone around me that I would fail before I even had the chance to try. I dug deeper and found the real motive hiding behind his lies. Marcus worked as an operations manager at a mid-sized catering company, and he had been secretly angling for a promotion that required him to appear as the household's sole provider on paper. To qualify for a company relocation bonus tied to single-income family support, I found the internal memo saved in his email drafts, outlining exactly how much extra he stood to earn if our household showed only one income source for the fiscal year. My independent bakery, with its own tax filings and its own name attached, would have ruined his numbers completely. He wasn't protecting our family, no matter how many times he used that phrase at the dinner table. He was protecting his bonus check, and he was willing to bury my dream, my savings, and 6 years of my life to get it. I wanted to scream at him that night, but something inside me told me to wait. If I confronted him too soon, he would simply deny everything, apologize, and go right back to sabotaging me in ways I couldn't trace. So instead, I smiled at dinner. I asked about his day. I let him believe I still had no idea. Underneath that calm face, I was building a plan of my own. What would you have done if you discovered the person closest to you was working against you in secret? I reached out to a mentor I had met at a culinary conference years earlier, a woman named Diane who now ran a growing chain of specialty bakeries across 3 states. I told her everything, including the sabotage. She didn't just offer sympathy. She offered me a position managing product development for her company with a path toward regional leadership. I accepted immediately, but I told no one at home. For the first time in years, I had something entirely my own that Marcus couldn't touch. 8 months later, Diane's company acquired the catering business Marcus worked for, absorbing it to expand into corporate event services across the region. I had no idea it was coming until Diane called me into her office and told me the deal had just closed. As part of the transition, leadership announced a new regional director who would oversee several departments, including operations, human resources decisions, and performance reviews for every employee who came over in the acquisition. That director was me. I remember standing at the front of that conference room, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it, and watching Marcus's face turn pale in the 3rd row as he realized the woman now signing off on his performance reviews was his own wife. The one he had spent a year trying to convince the entire world couldn't run a business of her own. In our first private meeting, Marcus tried to laugh it off, calling it such a funny coincidence. I looked him directly in the eyes and told him I knew everything. The landlord, the supplier calls, the shredded business plan, all of it. I watched the color drain from his face as he realized there was nothing left to hide. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, "You spent a year making sure I would never succeed. Now you work for me." That evening at home, Marcus tried every excuse he could think of. He said he panicked about money, that he never meant to hurt me, that he thought he was protecting our future. I asked him one simple question. Did you ever once think about what my future looked like? He had no answer. Have you ever realized that the person who claimed to protect you was really only protecting himself? I want to be clear about something important. I never used my new position of power to humiliate him publicly or fire him out of pure spite, even though part of me wanted to. Real justice isn't about destroying someone. It's about no longer letting them control your life. I recommended he be transferred to a different regional branch, far from my direct authority, so both of us could rebuild separately without constant collision. It wasn't revenge for the sake of pain. It was simply removing the person who had spent a year trying to keep me small, within a year in my new role. I helped Diane's company launch a specialty pastry line inspired by recipes I had been developing since I was 19 years old. The same recipes from the business plan Marcus once tore apart. Watching those products sell out in stores across 3 states felt like everything coming full circle. The dream he tried to destroy didn't just survive. It grew bigger than either of us ever imagined it could. Marcus and I eventually separated. There was no dramatic explosion, no screaming match in front of neighbors, just a quiet acknowledgement that trust, once shattered that deeply, doesn't rebuild itself. I moved into a small apartment near my new office, put a framed photo of my very first take on the wall, and finally felt like I was breathing fully for the first time in years. Some mornings I still think about how close I came to giving up entirely, and how easily his lies could have convinced me I truly wasn't capable. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this: someone who truly loves you wants to see you rise, even if your success changes the shape of your relationship. Real love isn't threatened by your ambition. If a person feels the need to quietly sabotage your dreams to protect their own comfort, that isn't love. That's fear disguised as affection. I spent years assuming loyalty was proven through comfort and reassurance, but I learned it's proven through actions, especially the ones nobody is watching. Can you believe my own family did this to me? And can you imagine finding the strength to turn it into something powerful instead of letting it break you completely? Looking back now, I don't feel bitterness when I think about that shredded business plan in the garbage can. I feel gratitude, strange as that sounds. That single discovery forced me to stop waiting for permission to succeed and start building a life that belonged entirely to me. My bakery dream didn't die in that trash bin. It was reborn into something far bigger than I ever planned alone. And this time, nobody could quietly tear it apart behind my back if my story meant something to you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.